Hello and welcome. Today we're going to discuss a very important piece of legislation from the Philippines. We'll be looking at Republic Act No. 9175, also known as the Chainsaw Act of 2002. By the end of this video, you will be able to understand the main purpose of this act, identify who is allowed to own and use a chainsaw, and recognize the penalties for violating the law. Our learning objectives are to understand the act's purpose, identify authorized users, and recognize penalties. This law was enacted to address a serious problem in the Philippines: illegal logging and forest destruction. Let's dive into the details. First, let's look at the core reason this law was created. Section 2, the Declaration of Policy, makes it very clear. The policy of the state is to conserve, develop, and protect forest resources under sustainable management. In other words, the government wants to make sure the country's forests are used wisely and are preserved for the future. They want to manage them in a way that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. The Act specifically targets a major tool used in illegal logging. It states that the state shall pursue an aggressive forest protection program geared towards eliminating illegal logging and other forms of forest destruction which are being facilitated with the use of chainsaws. So the law was passed because chainsaws were being used extensively in illegal logging operations. The government recognized that by controlling chainsaws, they could significantly reduce forest destruction. The main goal is to prevent chainsaws from being used for illegal purposes. Now, let's clarify what the law is talking about. Section 3 defines some key terms. First, what is a chainsaw? The Act defines it as any portable power saw or similar cutting implement rendered operative by an electric or internal combustion engine or similar means that may be used for, but is not limited to, the felling of trees or the cutting of timber. This is a broad definition. It doesn't just mean the large gas-powered saws you might imagine. It includes any portable power saw, whether it's electric or gas, that can be used to cut trees or timber. This ensures the law covers a wide range of tools that could be used for illegal logging. The Act also defines chainsaw dealer as a person engaged in the manufacture, importation, distribution, purchase, and/or sale of chainsaws. This means the law regulates not just the users of chainsaws, but also the businesses that make, sell, or import them. This creates a system of control from the point of manufacture or import all the way to the end user. Finally, the Act specifies that Department refers to the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR, and Secretary refers to the Secretary of the DENR. This is important because it tells us which government agency is responsible for implementing and enforcing this law. The DENR is the primary authority. So who is allowed to have a chainsaw? Section 5 outlines the specific categories of people who can get a permit. The Department of Environment and Natural Resources is authorized to issue permits to possess and/or use a chainsaw for the felling and/or cutting of trees, timber, and other forest or agroforest products. This means you can't just buy a chainsaw and start using it. You need a permit from the DENR. The law then lists the specific types of applicants who can qualify for this permit. First, anyone with a subsisting timber license agreement, production sharing agreement, or similar agreements, or a private land timber permit. This covers large-scale logging companies or individuals who have been granted legal rights to harvest timber from specific areas. They are already operating under a government license. Second, orchard and fruit tree farmers. And third, industrial tree farmers. These categories are for farmers who need chainsaws for legitimate agricultural purposes, like pruning trees or harvesting timber from their own farms. This shows the law is not meant to hinder legitimate farming. Fourth, a licensed wood processor, provided the chainsaw is used for cutting timber that has been legally sold to them. This is for businesses that process wood. They can use chainsaws, but only on timber that they have acquired through legal means. This prevents them from using their chainsaws to cut illegally sourced timber. And finally, anyone who shall use the chainsaw for a legal purpose. This is a catch-all provision. It allows the DENR to issue permits for other legitimate uses that might not fit neatly into the other categories, as long as the purpose is legal. This ensures flexibility for other valid uses. Now let's talk about the consequences of not following this law. Section 7 outlines the penal provisions. The penalties are quite severe, reflecting the seriousness of the crime of illegal logging. First, for selling, purchasing, or possessing a chainsaw without a proper permit, the penalty is imprisonment of 4 years, 2 months, and 1 day to 6 years, or a fine of not less than 15,000 pesos, but not more than 30,000 pesos, or both. The chainsaw is also confiscated. This means that just having a chainsaw without a permit is a serious offense. You don't even have to use it to be penalized. This is a key part of the law's preventative nature. Second, for the actual unlawful use of a chainsaw to cut trees or timber without authorization, the penalty is even harsher. Imprisonment of 6 years, 1 day to 8 years, or a fine of not less than 30,000 pesos, but not more than 50,000 pesos, or both. Again, the chainsaw is confiscated. This is the most severe penalty because it involves the actual act of illegal logging. The law makes it clear that using a chainsaw for unauthorized cutting will result in significant jail time and a large fine. The law also has provisions for those who order or command the violation and for public officials who are involved. If a public official commits the offense, they will be removed from office and perpetually disqualified from holding any public office. This is a crucial part of the law. It ensures that not just the person operating the chainsaw is held accountable, but also the people who are behind the illegal operations. It also sends a strong message that public officials are not above the law. Finally, let's look at some other important aspects of the law. Section 8 provides an incentive for citizens to help enforce the act. It establishes a reward system. Any person who voluntarily gives information leading to the recovery or confiscation of an unregistered chainsaw and the conviction of the persons charged thereof shall be entitled to a reward equivalent to 20% of the value of the chainsaw unit or units. This is a smart way to encourage public participation in the fight against illegal logging. By offering a reward, the government is empowering ordinary citizens to report violations and help protect the forests. Section 10 gives the Secretary of the DENR the power to revoke any permit or registration if a person is found violating the act. This is a powerful enforcement tool. It means that even if you have a permit, you can lose it if you don't follow the rules. This ensures ongoing compliance with the law. And finally, Section 11 creates a Joint Congressional Oversight Committee to monitor and oversee the implementation of the act. This committee, made up of members from both the Senate and the House of Representatives, is responsible for making sure the law is being implemented effectively. This provides a system of checks and balances to ensure the act achieves its goals. Let's quickly recap what we've learned today. We've explored Republic Act number 9175, the Chainsaw Act of 2002. We saw that its main purpose is to protect the Philippines' forest resources by regulating the ownership and use of chainsaws, which were being used to facilitate illegal logging. We learned that only specific individuals and entities, like licensed loggers, farmers, and wood processors, can obtain permits from the DENR to possess and use a chainsaw for legal purposes. And we examined the severe penalties for violations, which include long prison sentences and large fines, not just for using a chainsaw illegally, but even for possessing one without a permit. This law is a powerful tool in the Philippines' efforts to combat illegal logging and ensure the sustainable management of its precious forest resources. Thank you for watching.